Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Roxanne. If it's your first time here, then welcome. I wanted to talk today about my favorite children's, middle grade, young adult, and graphic novel books that I read in the past year. I didn't feel like sitting on the floor today, so here we are. I feel like I wonder if I can get a little bit more lighting. It is pretty dark over here. We might just have to deal with it. I guess Galileo wanted to be part of the show. Oh wait, no, you didn't have to leave, bud. Let's see. I don't know if that helped any. Ah! I'm getting my glasses off, but then I can't see anything. Well, you know what? This will just have to do. Alright, so I do have them down here, so if you see me looking down, it's just because I'm looking at my list. Alright, so we'll start with my favorite picture books, and I have talked about these in just throughout the year, so you may have already heard about them. The first is In My Mosque. I read this one recently, and it's just a really beautiful picture book about the types of people and the types of things that you'll find in a mosque. And I think it's really great and informative way to teach kids about different religions and different ways of having faith and the types of things that you'll find at different places of worship. And it was in a really approachable and beautiful way, and I really liked it, and I have seen it come up a lot this year in best of picture book lists, so I'm glad that other people also think so. Then I read Julian is a Mermaid, and this is a beautifully illustrated picture book about Julian, who sees himself as a mermaid. He, I believe, goes to the public pool with his grandma, and just along the way there's just so much beautiful imagery about women and the city and just the things that you see, and it just felt very familiar. The types of hairstyles and the types of things that I might have my grandmas or aunts or cousins say and do, and it's just a beautiful way to have Julian express himself. Then we have Eyes That Kiss in the Corners, and this is a really beautiful picture book about the beautiful eyes that kiss in the corners of this family, and how this young girl sees the eyes that her grandmother has and her mother has and her sister has, and it's just a beautiful way of showing that all different shapes of eyes are beautiful and should be loved and accepted. Then we have a really cute one was Gustavo the Shy Ghost, and this is a Day of the Dead picture book that is so bright and beautiful, and if you are looking for things to read around that time, this is one that I highly recommend. I immediately sent it to my best friend for her baby. Then we have the Undefeated, and this is a book about ancestors and black ancestors, and the beauty and the strength of the black individual and their history. I believe it focuses on American history, but it is a beautifully illustrated book, and everything just comes off the page. It's beautiful. Same goes for Change Sings, which is it is a picture book, and the words are like very poetic, kind of a song, and it's just talking about how positive change and positive actions can make such a beautiful difference on this earth. And then we have My Two Border Towns, which is about a little boy who lives in the border between the US and Mexico, and traveling back and forth and seeing the difference between the two and the types of people that you'll see. And it was just, these are all beautiful picture books. Then we have Ada Twist Scientist. You may, if you watched the Thanksgiving Day Parade, you may have seen, I believe Ada was one of the balloons, and this is about a really inquisitive young girl and all of the questions that she asks and all of the ways that she tries to find answers, and how sometimes it is difficult for the parents because a lot of messes made because she makes a lot of messes, and she has a lot of questions, and sometimes it can be a lot, but at the end of the day her parents really love and appreciate how inquisitive she is and how she just wants to know so much, and how that is a quality to be fostered in children. We have the 1619 project, or born, I believe it's Born Out of Water. I'm gonna have pictures of all of the books, and this is the picture book companion to the 1619 project book, which was published this year by the New York Times, and it's just about slaves coming into being forcibly brought into the United States. And then we have Bodies Are Cool, and this is a really fun, really cool picture book about almost every conceivable body type, and about how it functions for that person, and even if it functions differently, it is to be appreciated and cared for and accepted. And I think it's a great way to just show kids that there are so many different ways that a body can look, and that every single one of it should be accepted and is cool. I almost forgot a picture book. It is Planting Stories, which is the story of Pura Belpre, which is the first Puerto Rican librarian in the New York Public Library system, and everything that she began. And now there's the Pura Belpre Award, and it is just probably one of the prettiest illustrations I've seen in a picture book. This is both a graphic novel and a middle grade, and this is Nuke, and it is New Kid, and it's about a new kid at school and about overcoming the hesitations that one might have being the new kid at school, and also when you come from a different socioeconomic background, racial background, that a lot of the kids that you might see around you. And I think it tackles a lot of the topics really well, and it's the first in a series. I haven't read the second one yet, but I really loved it and had such a good time with it. Then we have From the Desk of Zoe Washington, and this is a middle grade mystery kind of. It's about Zoe Washington, whose father is in jail for a crime. She has no contact with him except on her birthday. She comes across a letter that was written by him to her that her mother does not want her to see, and it's because her mom is trying to protect her from the difficulties of the sort of reality of having a father in jail, and how she doesn't trust him and doesn't trust him with Zoe. But Zoe is curious and really wants to have a relationship with her father, and it's about her trying to figure out if her father actually belongs in jail and if he actually did commit the crime that they have put him in jail for. Then we have Front Desk, which if you like From the Desk of Zoe Washington, I think you'll also really love Front Desk. And this is about a young girl and her family. They have immigrated into the United States, and they're trying to just make a life for themselves. They begin to manage the front desk of a motel or a hotel, and it's about the difficulties that they encounter, everything from financial difficulties to her being in school, the relationship that she has with her dad and her mom and how that differs, just being an immigrant and how you have to deal with all of the difficulties that come with that, the language, the culture, everything like that. There is some racial discussions that are had as well. I just absolutely loved it. I thought it was so great. It's also the first in a series, and I can't wait to get to the rest of them. Then we have Lumberjanes, which is also a graphic novel, and kind of we actually have copies both in middle grade and in YA. And this is a fantasy summer camp story about these girls who go to the summer camp, and they are called Lumberjanes. And it's just about the shenanigans that ensue at the summer camp. There's a lot of like mysteries and weird fantastical things that are happening, but the power of their friendship keeps them together, and I think it is so smart and spunky and funny. I love it so much. I love all of the characters, and I highly recommend it. Then we have Ava Evergreen, Semi-Magical Witch. I talked about this in my reading survey. It is the first in a fantasy middle grade series, and it's about Ava Evergreen, who is trying to become a witch in the way that her mom is like one of the most powerful witches. And so you sort of have to undergo these processes and these tests, and you have to prove your magic, and she has a lot of difficulty doing that. And so part of the process is that you're sent for, I believe, a year to a new town to use your magic to help them with whatever it is they need. And she goes to a town that hasn't seen a witch in a very long time and has a very, very large, difficult problem. And so it's about her ingenuity and trying to find a balance between the abilities that she does have and then just her own intelligence and trying to help this town. And I think it's so beautiful. Everything from the imagery to the characters to the magic is absolutely beautifully laid out for you. I think if you like the Studio Ghibli movies, I think you'll really, really like this book. It has that sort of whimsy and magic to it that I just absolutely loved. I felt the same way that I felt reading the Nevermore series. So if you like that series, I think you'll really enjoy this as well. It just brought me so much joy, and I highly recommend it. And I think that's it for my favorite middle grade. And then for young adult, my favorite was Firekeepers Daughter. This is a mystery that is set in an Indian reservation, and our main character sees the effects of drug addiction in her town and with her friends, and it has a devastating effect on her life, and she is asked to join this undercover investigation that is being done as to how the drugs are getting into these reservations, why there are kids that are dying, like the effects of it, who's transporting it, everything like that. And so that's the sort of overarching plot of the story, but really it's about part of the Native American way of life, and she is half white, half Native, and that sort of discussion of both too much and too little of something. And I was afraid that it was going to be a little bit unbelievable, just because it's basically someone who's just out of high school helping with a federal investigation, but most of it really is just about her life and her goings on with her family and the relationship that she has to the individuals in the reservation and to her heritage and her people. And I loved it. I think you get so much out of this novel, and I think it's one of those that the more times you read it, the more you'll learn from it. I think for a debut, it really took me by surprise. And I just appreciated it so much, and I learned so much. So that's, I think, the only like purely young adult thing that I have on this list. The rest are just going to be the other graphic novels or manga that I loved. So I read, for manga, I read Attack on Titan volumes 1, 2, and 3 and loved them, and I read Tokyo Ghoul volume 1, and both of them sort of have that similar sort of fantasy component where you're fighting these evil beings, and you kind of don't know a lot about them, and you're trying to discover more about them as you go. Tokyo Ghoul is interesting because actually both Tokyo Ghoul and Attack on Titan are interesting because our main characters kind of are able to navigate between the two worlds of like regular humans and then whatever these beings are. And so you kind of are trying to see what is going on, learn about both sides. And so I'm really excited to get further into both of these series. And then I actually watched Attack on Titan, the anime, and now I'm reading the manga, and I am reading the manga, and then we'll want to watch the anime for Tokyo Ghoul, and I really loved both of them. Then I read Giant Days 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 this past year, and absolutely adored every single one of them. Giant Days, just as a series itself, is one of my favorite graphic novel series. It's very slice of life. It's about these 3 friends in college in the UK, and it's just about their everyday lives, their school work, their friendship, trying to find housing, their relationships. It's hilarious. I chuckle out loud all the time, and I really loved it. Then they had the T-Dragon series, and this is just the sweetest, most charming series ever. There is like nothing about it that I don't love. It is just like this quiet, it's like sipping a hot drink and just being cozy is exactly just what it feels like when you're reading this. And it's just about these like dragon beings and their caretakers and this tea society, the tea that can be made from the tea dragons, and it's about the caretakers of this tea society, and it's these other characters who are like both the softest people, or the softest beings, but also like very badass warriors. I really can't tell you much about what this is about because I really don't even read it for that. I read it just for the beautiful relationships between the characters, the absolutely just gorgeous, flawless illustrations. It's just the best. It brings me so much joy. Then we have Feelings, which is mostly illustrations, and it's goes through the seasons and talks about sort of mental health and using the seasons as an anchor for discussion about mental health. And I think the illustrations were absolutely gorgeous. And I really liked that sort of use of the seasons to talk about mental health, because I think a lot of us do feel things like it affects our mental health when like the sun starts to go down, the sun sets so much earlier, and the sort of seasonal depression and things like that. So I really liked it. Then I read My Beijing, which is actually translated, and it is multiple kind of companion stories about the relationship between this young girl and her grandfather, and it is so sweet, and actually they all kind of connect in really interesting ways. I thought the illustrations were beautiful. I thought the relationship between the characters was beautiful. I think the lessons that you learn about acceptance and standing up for what you believe in is beautiful. And it did have some kind of like slightly fantastical elements to it, which I really appreciated, because it didn't like deep dive into fantasy. It was just a few things here and there that sort of towed the line, and I loved it. I picked it up on a whim, and I'm really happy that I did. Then I read Something is Killing the Children Volume 1, which is a graphic novel, a horror graphic novel, and it's about children just keep dying, and no one knows why and no one knows how, and this mysterious blonde woman comes into town proclaiming to help, and it's about the survivor of one of the survivors of one of the groups of children that were killed by this mystery in this mysterious way, is kind of falls into this situation with this woman who claims to help and is using him to do that. And it's action packed, and it's scary and creepy, and the illustrations are done really well, and I really liked it. I am super invested in the characters and in the story. There's like this secret society that's part of it as well. I'm hooked. I just read the second volume, and I can't wait to continue on with the series. I think that is it for this list. I don't know if you've read any of these, but if you have, let me know, and let me know what you thought of them. If there's things that I talked about that make you think of other things that I might enjoy, please let me know down below. Let me know if you read any children's lit or middle grade. So middle grade is typically so when a lot of times when people say children's lit, they do include middle grade, but I sort of divide it as middle grade, very like children, very small, to like 3rd grade maybe, and then middle grade 4th through like 8th, and then I have young adult, and that's kind of how I separated in my mind. So when I say children's, middle grade, and YA, that's why I make that distinction, and don't just say like children's and YA. But if you read any children's picture books or children's chapter books, or if you read any middle grade or young adult or any graphic novels that you loved this year, let me know down below. As always, thank you for watching and for listening. I love you all very much.